Hey guys, welcome back. We have a new moon in the sign of Leo that we're going to be talking about today. Welcome to Leo season. To me, the chart associated with our Leo new moon this year is very much a force to be reckoned with. And I do think that we are going to see over this next couple of week period of time, some pretty significant cultural shifts begin to take place, especially in reference to where power and influence are stemming from and the way that is impacting collective energy. We have a really powerful new moon energy coming through. This is happening on Thursday, July 24th, 2025, 1912 Universal Time, 3:12 p.m. Eastern Time at 2 degrees and 8 minutes of the sign of Leo. I say it's a very powerful full moon because it actually happens to be occurring in exact opposition to Pluto, ruling power in all of its forms, who is currently at 2 degrees of the sign of Aquarius. The fact that this new moon is happening exactly opposed to Pluto, who recently entered Aquarius, to me is highlighting the Leo Aquarius polarity and what that specific energetic polarity represents, especially in terms of Leo has a lot to do with the king and the rich and famous and rulers and celebrities and elites. And the sign of Aquarius has to do with the overall collective of humanity. And when we consider the fact that that particular axis is what is really lit up energetically for this new moon that we've got going on here, and specifically in the context of Pluto in the sign of Aquarius, that right there is, to me, an indication that a transfer of power from a more centralized model to a more decentralized model is likely to either be at the root or the basis of a lot of the changes and transitions that take place right now, or just sort of be like an underlying theme that is manifesting in a multitude of varieties and ways and sort of rippling out in terms of different avenues and venues of experience over the course of this period of time. But it does seem like there is a process of change or transformation that is underway throughout the course of this next couple of weeks, and a revolutionary energy is coming in. I think that this is about reorienting ourselves in a lot of ways away from the old way of doing things and kind of redirecting our attention, our focus, and our activity towards the future and what is the potential for what could come next. There could be things that go on this cycle that emphasize or begin to introduce on a collective level some type of tangible evidence that we are moving into what could be commonly referred to as kind of a space age vibe. New science, technology, energy, currency, things to do with space travel, even aliens and stuff like that, or just a general emphasis on the sky, on ether, on the more ethereal planes of existence. For some reason, I don't know, it could hold some special significance or be extra highlighted throughout the course of this cycle. This energy seems to, I do think, be facilitating on an energetic level a step out of the way that things have always been, and a step in really what is an entirely new direction that we don't have a lot of past historical precedent to help us project or apply in terms of the way that things are going forward. If you guys have been following my videos over this past couple weeks, I've been talking about how that Mars South Node conjunction in the sign of Virgo, which is still ongoing for our new moon, had to me a lot to do with interrupting patterns that had been perpetuating for long periods of time. And I feel like this is kind of just another exclamation point behind that in terms of a lot of the ways that aspects are lining up for our new moon. There is something about changes, alterations, disruptions, and interruptions to the long-standing perpetuating pattern of things in ways that just sort of short circuit systems, or bring something entirely new and unthought of into the frame of reference or something somehow. But it just, there's just something about the way that things have always been operating no longer being able to be the way that things continue to operate, because there's like this new way or this new system or this new, I don't know, like protocol, whatever it is that happens to come online. There's like upgrades that I do think are definitely being emphasized here. And I do think as a result, we will see the established order of things that have generally governed, influenced, and controlled the experience of life and reality historically, like go through this continual process of crumbling and falling apart that is somehow re-emphasized or extra emphasized or just of significance in some way over the next couple of weeks. Another element to me of this energy, the way that all this is lining up for our new moon, and I will talk about and delineate all of the aspects that we have going on and like where I'm drawing this information from. But, you know, to summarize, another aspect of the way that this chart is likely to manifest has to do with secrets being brought to light in a way that exposes how power, control, and order have been being maintained. And I actually think that we may see some people speaking out in ways that really exposes or like blows the lid off of like some scandals and stuff like that throughout this period of time. But this growing collective awareness is going to disempower the ability for power to centralize itself around things, people, businesses, governments, organizations, control, belief, power. I'm telling you guys, Pluto in the sign of Aquarius, opposite the new moon, the sun and the moon lining up in the sign of Leo. And not only that, they're also exactly trine Neptune and Saturn, both retrograde conjunct in Aries. This is a loss of power and prestige and control in terms of the Leo energy, in terms of the rulership, the like the legacies of power and control, the way that like the elite class and stuff like that, like the rich and famous. There is a loss of control, of power centralized in that energy. And on the flip side of that, Pluto in the sign of Aquarius, this is a transfer of power from like the few, from like the hands of the few to the hands of the many. The king, the ruler, the sign of Leo, juxtaposed to the subjects and the collective of humanity that is receiving the power of Pluto right now in the sign of Aquarius, as we are also in the process of going through this greater paradigm shift of ages into the age of Aquarius. I'm telling you, this specific dynamic right here, and perhaps even some of the like cultural trends and transitions that go on during this period of time, I do think are going to be quite foundational in what we will in the future come to realize has been an origin point of this greater paradigm shift that is also underway in terms especially of our, you know, tangible 3D perception of that transition actually being in a process of occurring. So without essentially like the cover of darkness and the hidden dimension through which that old world energy used to maintain power, maintain control, maintain influence, and operate, these old systems are, I do think, going to fail to function properly, thus interrupting these patterns that have been perpetuating and ongoing for generations and, you know, very, very long periods of time here. There's also a very karmic energy that is infused in all of this as well, and specifically in the regard of some type of active karmic release, actively breaking karmic cycles that have kept us, you know, in these loops of reoccurring experience and have maintained the perpetuation of these patterns, which are being interrupted right now as well. Now, I guess before we get more into it, I should just go ahead and let you, like, tell you guys the aspects that are playing out, where I'm drawing this energy or this interpretation from. Really, we've got like two primary things going on out there. They're both like bundles though. We've got like bundle A and bundle B, and bundle A and bundle B are both working together. They're, to me, honestly, like both sides of the same coin. We've got bundle A that is like facilitating our transformation and energetic transition into this new world energy. Then we've got bundle B, which is literally like eroding and dismantling and degrading and dissolving the attachment to the forms and structures and the foundations that the old world, old age, old paradigm energy was built upon. So at the same time, we have like a demolition taking place on one hand, and we also have like new construction taking place on the other hand, represented through these different bundlings of energetic activations. Now, what are they? Bundle A is going to be the new moon itself, sun and moon aligned at 2 degrees of the sign of Leo, exactly opposite Pluto, 2 degrees of sign of Aquarius. I've already talked about how this to me is highlighting the shift or transition of power from a centralized model to a decentralized model of the hands of the few to the hands of the many. Another major foundational theme in this overall paradigm shift ushering in the age of Aquarius. Now, going along with that, remember I'm talking about this bundled energy, not only do we have this very powerful opposition taking place, which on its own would be telling this same story, but we also have the Sun in Leo trine exactly Neptune and Saturn in the sign of Aries, fire sign trine. The sun, the moon, Saturn, and Neptune both retrograde. That's a facilitation of energy. Neptune and Saturn in combination. This is something that is breaking down structures. Saturn is control. Saturn is discipline. Saturn is authority. Saturn is government, okay? This is the structure that has upheld and maintained the order and the rules of the paradigm of the past. With Neptune, this is the breakdown, this is the disintegration, this is the dissolving, this is the fragmentation of all of that. And then when we take the trine energy, trines facilitate things. This is like a free flow of energy going on here. With the sun and the moon in the sign of Leo, this indicates that there is a breakdown in the structure or the control pertaining to that Leo energy, pertaining to that rulership, leadership, authority, wealth, fame, status, power as a means of influence and control. I do think there's a breakdown going on here, and I just don't think that that cultural model is going to continue to hold the same level of appeal with this type of energetic setup coming in. Now, aside from that, we also have the sun in the beginning of Leo forming a tight sextile to Uranus, who is at 0 degrees of Gemini right now and in a trine to Pluto. This is that great awakening energy, you guys. So on one hand, cluster A, I think that's what I was calling it or something like that, is facilitating this or propelling progress or momentum towards this collective like soul revolution, soul like on these higher levels kind of evolution, while also assisting in the breakdown and the release of this old world energy. Now, on the other side of things, cluster B, this group, I feel weird calling it cluster B because that's like a set of personality disorders, but group B of the energy has to do with the nodes of the moon, Mars and Venus, all in Mercury signs and all in harsh aspect to one another. If you guys have been following along with the astrology, then you know that we have Mars right now in a conjunction to the South Node. This is a not necessarily like not an energy that gives necessarily the most like perceivably positive results. It only happens once every 2 years, and it's always a process of active karmic release. Mars conjunct the South Node, of course, means that Mars therefore is also opposite the North Node in the sign of Pisces, and we also have Venus in the sign of Gemini in square to all of this energy in Pisces and Virgo. Venus squaring North Node Pisces, South Node Virgo, Venus squaring Mars as well. This to me is also demonstrating this kind of like shift, change, or transition in terms of what we're interested in, what we're drawn to, what the appeal is, and it has to do with information and the way that we're thinking about things. And it also has to do with what we're no longer willing or no longer have a desire to continue supporting or participating in. With Mars and the South Node coming together, again, this is like To me, it represents a force that actively disrupts the continuation of things that have been going on karmically, generationally, or for long periods of time. So that Mars, Venus, South Node, North Node, conjunction, opposition, square dynamic, those four energetic points and planets all doing their thing together out there in the mutable signs, I feel like is really speaking to this karmic turning point in terms of what we are going to create, what it is that we want, what we're interested in, and what we are and are not, and how we are and are not going to be utilizing our energy. So I feel like this is sort of like the break right here. Like the way that things have been ongoing, they can't continue to, persist. They can't continue to go on that way. And then on the other side of this coin, we have this group A of planetary energy, which is really facilitating our transformation and transition in this new direction, while also detaching us and moving us away from the limitations and boundaries that have structured reality or our experiences or our lives, or even our inner world and our belief systems and what we perceive to be possible for ourselves in the past. So real interesting astrological setup. Therefore, of course, we've got these two varying dynamics going on, but it's like they're both necessary in order for us to get to the same place. They're both really kind of telling the same story, just in slightly different ways. Again, Saturn is the Lord of Time and the Lord of Karma in the trine to the new moon and retrograde. That is also indicating this cosmically facilitated, cosmically supported Neptune there, release from the ways that things have always been set up, established orders, the rules that we followed, how we've fallen in line in the past. And as a result of all of that stuff, if the lines that we used to color within are just not there anymore, then therefore we are more oriented to color outside of the lines. If the box that we're used to thinking in just kind of suddenly vanishes, then all of a sudden it's more natural to be quote unquote thinking outside the box. And that is the other end of this energy, Uranus trine Pluto. If the sun and the moon in alignment in Leo trine Neptune and Saturn, both retrograde in Aries, is this drain, the removing of the foundation of the structures of the past that are going on, especially in terms of the ego energy, or again, the rulers, or what has ruled over us, or what we've tried to impress, or the also, the price of perceived fame and success and fortune and all of that. That's another thing we're going to be getting into this report, or into in this report. I do think that the dark side of Hollywood and the entertainment world and celebrities and stuff like that is about to be exposed in some type of big way that actually brings about the end of an era in terms of mass media and the influence that it has held over the collective of humanity for a long period of time now. And we'll talk about that more as we get through the report. But generally, I do think this combination of aspects, Group A and Group B, both happening at the same time, represents our greater overall move, kind of throughout all aspects and areas of life, from a centralized model of life reality and the way that power and control have been utilized and have manifested, to a much more decentralized version. And that is going to be, I think, exemplified through people, through individuals suddenly awakening to maybe a greater sense of self-empowerment and personal authenticity that they kind of value above all else at this point moving forward as well. But this is, to me, representing the Great Awakening, truly getting life, truly coming online over this period of time. That's been kind of a buzzword or a keyword that a lot of people have had a growing awareness to, sort of a trend over this past several years. And this is the time, this is the Great Awakening, and we're going to start to like everybody's gonna know, I do think now and moving forward. But this could be with the new moon exactly opposite Pluto in Aquarius, which is trine Uranus and Gemini right now. Super strange, super bizarre, super weird cycle. The informational like component of things, like what is coming out, and maybe like the like rumors and the gossip and stuff, like heard it through the grapevine, or just like what's on the tabloids and stuff in association with the things that come out this cycle could be very like shocking to the core, honestly. And I would not be surprised if we do see the downfall of things or people associated with kings or kingdoms or empires or emperors or rulers, celebrities, you know, the rich and famous, or also like these hidden behind the scenes puppet masters maybe losing prestige or losing power or losing notoriety or being exposed. All people that would fall under that type of archetype, I think, are going to have a hard time maintaining secrecy and maintaining control of their own narrative, essentially, over this period of time. It is giving to me the emperor has no clothes type of vibes, and it's like the ways that people have achieved fame and fortune and power being exposed, and influence therefore being lost as a result, and sort of like this mass distaste, I think, for like the truth of the situation. Like it's sort of like and I don't know, it's like weird to say this because it's not, but it's like, you know how there's that saying out there, like never meet your heroes or never meet your idols or whatever it is, because oftentimes when you meet someone in real life, the sort of ideal that you have built about them is like shattered, and then it kind of just like ruins things for you somehow, and can be this very like disappointing experience. I think that for some reason, on a kind of collective level, it's sort of going to be something like that. It doesn't help that we also right now have Chiron at 29 or 28 degrees of the sign of Aries, and that Sabian symbol is a large disappointed audience. And I do think that there is likely to be some type of collective disappointment or letdown that results in like the fall from grace or the fall from glory in regards to like specific individuals of celebrity or fame or power or something. Somehow the fall of the false idol, I think, would be a very appropriate title for the way that this energy is representing itself, at least in my opinion, with that Leo Aquarius axis so highlighted there, and the trine to Saturn and Neptune. I do think the age or the era of celebrity worship culture has met its end with this. And, you know, the classic or traditional version, therefore, of what a celebrity or like a status symbol kind of is, I think this is going to be falling off as well. Hollywood and what we would consider also like the traditional or the legacy or the mass media or legacy entertainment, entertainers. I think there's something about this that is going to become obsolete, unappealing, or just irrelevant somehow. So kind of like throughout the entire mass media establishment, I wouldn't be surprised if we see major changes start to take place, as well as kind of like people are realizing that the way that those mediums have been utilized in the past as a form of influence is just no longer effective. And we literally actually have Jupiter at 11 degrees of Cancer for the new moon. That Sabian symbol is a clown caricaturing well-known personalities. And then, as I just mentioned, we also have Chiron at 28 Aries, a large disappointed audience. So I don't know, to me, even symbolism is referencing perhaps like the loss of respect for formerly very like cherished and looked up to and maybe, you know, highly respected members of society, or just people that were generally put on pedestals in the past, maybe. So I do think with this lineup, I mean, and literally the new moon exactly opposite Pluto, also that's the lord of the underworld, trine Saturn and Neptune. That is the discontinuation of something. Sextile Uranus, that's like a rocket ship blasting us forward into the future. I think celebrity worship culture dies this cycle, you guys, and it's going to have, I know it may seem like a frivolous, like, you know, superficial thing to be discussing and talking about in our astrology report for today, but I do think that the impact that it's going to have on like the culture as a whole is going to be very systemic and quite profound. I think that like removing like this particular angle of influence is going to be something that really also like facilitates our process of moving forward into this new Aquarian energy and embracing this age of authenticity that we are also approaching and moving into more and more as these aspects continue to come in that are all like contractions pushing us through this process of rebirth into this new Aquarian energy. But again, like it is going to be because of, I think, the light, like literally the truest form and sense of the light of the sun, Leo, ruled by the sun, both luminaries, the sun and the moon coming together in the sign of Leo in an exact direct standoff with the Lord of Darkness. What is hidden in the shadows? Like the Lord of the underworld, the root issues having to do with things. And in the sign having to do with the greater collective of humanity, I just really think that we are going to be, something's going to be illuminated here, you guys. Something's going to be uncovered. Something's going to be exposed, and it's going to have to do with whatever is at the root of what has been empowering those who have like maintained and held power and control and influence for long periods of time. But really, again, like it's just another representation of this same theme that is playing itself out over and over again right now, which is this like stripping away, like bit by bit, piece by piece, or like erasing the lines that defined, or again, like the foundations that defined the way that things had been established, the established order of the past, and creating this like very like transitory, unstructured environment in which these wild cards and these novelties and this like radical new energy is having an opportunity to be able to emerge. This is a decentralizing influence, and in this case, being a new moon in Leo, I do think that, again, like it's centered around influence and power. Gone are the days, I do think, of like a handful of, you know, like global sensations or like superstars defining influence and entertainment, and you know, arriving on the other side of that is this continued acceleration of the emergence of the inspired individual, the empowered individual in the sign of Aquarius, influencing others that they appeal to in their area of interest. Entertainment is going to be diversifying. We're going to see that. I do think we're going to see a lot of that playing out over this next couple of weeks. Influence is diversifying. And it's like, instead of a couple of people who are famous to everyone, it's like thousands and thousands of people who are all famous to some people. I think people are going to be drawn to individual authenticity, and I think that the influence is going to come from real people whose skills or knowledge or personality they value, instead of these like curated celebrity personas that are placed in positions of prominence that we've all sort of been directed to look up to and admire in the past. Of course, you know, this will ripple down to this major cultural shift and be just another step into the expression of a more self-empowered and decentralized energy, which is what is coming next, which is the road that this is all leading towards. Wouldn't be surprised if over the summer, throughout the month of August, like box office sales and also that like legacy, traditional, established media numbers, I think they're going to be way down. I think we're going to see cancellations. I think we're going to see sell-offs. I think we're going to see layoffs. I think that you could see like mass firings and stuff like that, like in those industries especially. And on the flip side of that, these independent content creators are probably going to see dominance or feel energetic dominance somehow shifting in their direction, shifting in their favor. Perhaps unexpected progress and acceleration could come with this on that side of things. Another thing about this energy all week, last week too, I've been, saying this, you might want to keep it in mind. Energy levels generally are likely to be very low right now. And not only that, like our ability to produce results and to maintain, discipline, structure, and order in our own lives could also be very low. I'm describing how this energy is not stabilizing, how it is collapsing things essentially. And remember, Neptune and Saturn are in this conjunction in the sign of Aries. That's ruled by Mars. Mars represents our energy body. Mars right now is in a conjunction to the South Node. That is a drain on energy levels. So the Mars energy is really kind of like debilitated in multiple ways right now, which is indicating perhaps just not feeling our best or our most vigorous. And Saturn retrograding conjunct Neptune, the ability to maintain self-control, self-discipline, structure our own lives in a way that like moves us forward, super lacking right now. And then when we also take the sun in the sign of Leo, that is also ruling like our vitality and our energy levels, and put the moon there also, and then put it in the trine to Saturn and Neptune, that is just another indication of this drain on, kind of like our ability to maintain structure, order, boundaries, discipline, control, leadership, authority, rules, motivation, willpower, strength, vitality, vigor, work ethic, endurance, where it's all kind of flat this week. So you could be feeling just exceptionally like burnt out, lazy, unmotivated, and like everything is just kind of flatlining right now. If you find yourself there, if you're feeling like there's something wrong with you, of course it may be, but more likely this is just a result of the frequency that's going on out there right now and the way that it's impacting the Mars assertive quality of things. This is a much more passive, slow-paced energy, and Mercury is also retrograde, which is backing things up, slowing things down. So you could be also, so that's going on. Now you could be also really, really questioning an energy like this, the structure or state of your own life or of your own feelings or of your own capabilities to build and produce and create what you want or to move yourself forward somehow, or maybe like what you have built or what you do believe in undergoing some type of doubts or questions as well, and wondering if any of it even really matters anymore, or if it's time to move on or change somehow, or if we still feel like even moving in this same direction that maybe we had always thought was our ideal vision or the goal that we had established for ourselves to achieve. I do think also a lot of people are really going to be evaluating their goals and their objectives and what it is that they do want to build, produce, and create for themselves in their life now and moving forward. This could also definitely be bringing sudden powerful awakenings or epiphanies, most specifically probably into the deeper root issues of things that have, again, maybe us doubting or questioning or reconsidering a lot of varying aspects of our lives and the way that we have structured our lives or our inner world somehow, historically, like in the past and maybe up until this moment right now. In fact, actually, this is a perfect setup for delving into the deeper nature of our own psyche. We really, really can be like psychic or subconscious mind detectives. When we have a Sun-Pluto opposition, you put the moon there as well. That's like really being able to get to the root of, you know, the way we feel about things and the way we behave as a result and why. Like the deeper nature of our own personality, of our own psyche, of our own subconscious mind. And not only that, but also we are really being gifted right now with a tremendous aptitude to reprogram some of these deeply rooted and ingrained psychic complexes that do govern our actions, that do govern our behaviors, and that are largely responsible for the patterns that we stick to and that we carry out and implement like cyclically in our lives over and over again, which also is being interrupted right now by the way that all of this is coming together. So I do think that we can be sort of like our own psychic surgeon in a lot of ways as we move through this period of time. With Mars and the South Node together in the sign of Virgo. Remember, Virgo is also ruled by Mercury. This also has to do with the mind and thought patterns. Actively releasing, ending, changing, disrupting past patterns, past specifically thought patterns, and therefore changing. Like they say, you know, there's a school of thought that suggests that it is very, very difficult for people to change. And I honestly oftentimes find there to be wisdom in that. However, this is one of those like very unique periods of time where, to a greater extent than the average, I think that people are genuinely going to be able to change. And maybe it's only going to be in small ways, but like I do think that we are really being energetically supported in making changes here that help us break out of these debilitating patterns and cycles and karmic loops that we may have been caught up in the past, that may have been systemic to our daily life or to our mental function. Like there is a disruption in the energy field here that is literally like shocking the system in some way, that is trying to like rewire literally like the neurons firing and like open up new pathways that like, I don't know, like does something to like alter the future trajectory of events that is to play out somehow. So changing the way that we think about things, changing the way that we're doing things on a day-to-day basis is likely to be, whether we're conscious of it or unconscious of it, a result of whatever goes on throughout this Leo lunar cycle, which really kind of like brings us back again full circle to this Great Awakening vibe that is super represented here. And the fact that I do again think that we have arrived at that moment. A lot of people are going to be like quitting their old ways of being, their old ways of behaving, their old ways of thinking, and going through this process of up-leveling, upgrading, evolving themselves somehow that is quite self-directed and maybe like seems to come out of nowhere. And it's funny because like on that note, in that regard, we have the new moon, as I told you guys, it is occurring at 2 degrees and 8 minutes of the sign of Leo. But in terms of our Sabian symbol placement, this symbol associated with that specific degree placement, we look at the 3rd degree of the sign of Leo, because when we're talking about symbolism associated with degrees, we always round up a degree because we look at the wave of energy that is pulling in, that's beginning to manifest, not the energy that is waning out and that is dissipating. So we're looking at 3 degrees of the sign of Leo, and that Sabian symbol is a woman having her hair bobbed, which would be like, you know, getting in line with the times, like this like new different trend, I guess, that's like incoming. At least that's how I kind of think about it. And then we also have the Pluto degree. Pluto's at 2 degrees of the sign of Aquarius right now. That Sabian symbol is a deserter from the Navy, stands suddenly aware of a dawning truth. Freedom is never the result of compromise, so no longer willing to surrender personal power or compromise values with the Pluto energy, like a very powerful drive coming through. We also have Neptune at 2 degrees of the sign of Aries right now. That's a Sabian symbol for 3 Aries. That Sabian symbol is a cameo profile of a man in the outline of his country. I think it's becoming becoming more and more difficult to hide our true authentic nature, where our loyalties lie, you know, what's important to us, what we value, and essentially like who we really are is likely to sort of just be written all over us as we move through this period of time. And again, that is why it is going to be hard for like the old order of things that may have operated in the shadows, or really anything that has been pulling the strings from the shadows, to maintain that secrecy, because it's going to become so transparent. Like everybody's gonna know. Uranus right now is at 0 degrees of the sign of Gemini, which is 1 degree of Gemini's Sabian symbol. That Sabian symbol is a glass bottom boat, reveals undersea wonders. Like we are getting a clear and transparent view. Transparency also, I guess, could be another just like blanket descriptor for how this energy is likely to manifest. New moon in the sign of Leo. This is a cycle about shining light into the darkness, illuminating shadows in really like the truest sense of energetic and astrological expression, with the sun and the moon in the sign of Leo exactly across from Pluto and Aquarius. The new moon is exposing, I think, the roots of power, the roots of wealth, fame, glory. This is the dark side of the elite, rich, famous celebrity culture being highlighted here for some reason, on display for all to see. This is the end of the era, as I have mentioned. I do think as a result of celebrity influence and celebrity power, dynasties could literally fall here. We actually, on that note, have Mars at 22 degrees Sabian symbol placement of the sign of Virgo as our new moon in Leo comes together. And that Sabian symbol is a royal coat of arms enriched with precious stones. So Mars conjunct the South Node. Again, yet again, another indication of, you know, the royalty, the royal class, the dynasties, these legacies and dynasties of power and control being what is on the out here. Sports and like famous athletes and stuff could also be represented with the Leo energy trine the Aries, Saturn, Neptune thing. So there could be like scandals or things being exposed having to do with like professional sports or famous athletes as well. Nobody with, I feel like it doesn't really matter like what the industry is, but I just think people that hold a lot of prominence or hold a lot of fame and power are likely to be somehow either telling secrets, sharing secrets, or secrets being exposed throughout the course of this next couple weeks while this energy plays out. And another thing, I kind of mentioned this earlier, but I do think that another aspect of this shift, and one of the things also that might be kind of like bringing down the numbers or the values associated with like, you know, the more performative fields, it's like people I do think are going to be more and more less interested in watching other people be great, and watching other people shine, and watching other people perform, and like putting them on a pedestal and looking up to them. I do think that the interest rather is likely to be like centering more and more around achieving personal greatness. So, you know, that's also part of it. It's like, why would I sit around and watch you be great? Like, why? What a waste of my time. Why would I not just focus on improving myself, focus on developing my own skills or my own talents, or like making myself the best that I can be, stepping into my own potential and like making myself shine. You know, I feel like that type of thing as well. It's like I think it will just be viewed more as a waste of time to consume other people's success at the expense of our own going forward. And obviously, if more and more people are putting time and energy and value in the cultivation of their own potential and in their own ability to like be self-empowered and feel like they're like tapping into like their own star power and stuff like that. I mean, remember, Aquarius is also the sign associated with the star card in tarot, and this is a process of collective self-actualization. So I don't know, you guys, I think that more people are just going to be oriented around cultivating their own potential and success, and less just interested in like the performance of others, especially if we're not like growing or benefiting from that display in any, type of significant way. And I do also think that a lot of the exposure that comes from this, I think I mentioned this earlier, is because of actually like some of these celebrities or some of these like idols or some of these, individuals speaking up because they're real and like disclosing things because they're realizing that like their old masters or their old reasons for, never saying anything or never disclosing anything or never speaking up in the past, like no longer pull the strings or no longer hold the power the way that they used to. It's like this whole facade that's crumbling. It's like I maintained this secrecy and, I went along with essentially like the operating manual of like how this whole thing works because I wanted to be able to maintain my influence and my power and my, stardom and my status. But now I'm realizing that like your whole machine that enabled me to be in that position is breaking down. And I may actually have more power and more influence and do a better job of sustaining my like celebrity status if I kind of like go rogue and begin like spilling the secrets that are already coming out, because by maintaining that secrecy and by staying attached to this machine, it's not going to, benefit my career or benefit my reputation or benefit my ability to be famous and be successful in the long run, because the machines, the corporations, like the big business templates, that is the centralization, the conglomeration, the power in the hand, power, influence, and control in the hands of the few is not the trend here. So, we may see a lot of these like celebrities and stuff that have been a part of the system, that have been very much ingrained and benefiting from the machine, all of a sudden realize that they're actually better off jumping ship and turning on that, and it maybe like exposing some of this type of stuff because they're realizing that like they're actually going to have more career longevity or an ability to like maintain their influence more so independently than as a part of these systems. So again, a lot of it is going to be coming from within the beast, like from within the belly of the beast, so to say. It's like the student turning on the master, especially if the master has been overly abusive or overly controlling. Like this is where people begin to realize that they have more power if they take their power into their own hands than they do if they rely on the power of the like brand or the business, the corporation, or the machine, whatever it is, that truly did dominate in the past. So things could get real weird, you guys. Again, we could see some very ugly or shocking truths come to light as a result of this turn that's going on. There could be like some shocking betrayals that take place in energy like this as well. But it is going to be a function of this greater overall breakdown away from the old order and this simultaneous revolutionary energy that is pulling in right now. And with the nodes, the north and the south node being implicated like they are right now, and all of these big collective energy outer planets also, and Venus and Mars in a square and Mercury retrograde, honestly, like a lot of this is going to be and is going to feel and is going to seem and appear just totally out of our control. Things are probably going to be changing dramatically and in very unexpected ways. And a lot of things are also going to be both losing and gaining appeal. I do think there's going to be quite a differentiation in like desires and values with Venus and Gemini squaring Mars and Virgo. And this is going to again be based on information that we're being exposed to. Like people are going to be wanting more options, wanting to free themselves from maybe like past commitments and past investments. This is a very like versatile, open to alternatives, open to options, wanting, the whole array of choices to choose from type of energy. So I do think that people are going to be sort of desiring a level of variability in things and an ability to choose and decide. This is another way of saying this would be, this is a very, very experimental energy. And I do think that the whole purpose and point right now on the microcosm level is to reinvent ourselves. Like, if we want to break it down and boil it down to its most, I think, basic kind of like energetic nudge right here, we are being urged unconsciously, subconsciously, energetically to reinvent ourselves somehow over the course of this 4-week period of time. And I do really think generally, throughout the course of this year and moving forward, how things have been done in the past is really going to be coming under fire or up for questioning here. The status quo, the status flow of things, some type of interruption, some type of disruption. Or this is a lot of fire energy, you guys. We have a 4-planet trine and fire signs, Saturn and Neptune and the sun and the moon, Leo and Aries, Pluto opposite the new moon exactly in the sign of Aquarius, Mars conjunct the south node. This could literally be like burning it to the ground energy. Things like straight up being burnt down, burning bridges, burning down the past, or even literal like wildfires spreading like crazy, or fire damage, heat damage could be an outlet of expression for this particular combination of energy as well. On a more personal level, though, you guys, aside from maybe this like yearning or urge or call to reinvent yourself somehow, you may find yourself just generally tired of or over something maybe that you truly did admire or idealize or love or value or identify with in the past, but you're realizing like that's just not who I am. Like, I don't know what I was thinking, I don't know what influence I was under, I don't know, what I was telling myself, but I'm realizing that that is literally just never who I was, and I cannot continue to pretend to be that person or in that relationship or in that job or play that role somehow. I think role playing is probably about to become a bit more difficult in this energy as well. Like, there is a draw towards authenticity, originality, uniqueness here that is going to continue to gain strength, gain dominance, gain prominence, gain magnetism over this period of time. So you could be feeling this deep, powerful urge or impulse to make significant changes here. Follow that impulse. Again, that is what this time is for. You may find your interest changing. You may also find your thoughts deepening in ways that could honestly scare you, or just like, a lot of people I think are going to think that they're going crazy in energy like this. Like, you could find yourself suddenly very interested maybe in topics or in exploring topics that you had never had an interest in or never even considered or thought to look into in the past. Things that are shallow, things that are surface level, things that are lacking in depth, lacking in authenticity are probably no longer going to hold any appeal, probably not going to draw attention the way that they used to. As I just mentioned, the unique, the innovative, the unexplained, the mysterious. This is where the magnetic pull is going to come from when we've got a new moon opposite Pluto. Also, the North Node in the sign of Pisces, Uranus trine Pluto and air signs, learning and understanding and awakening to the deeper spiritual truths governing our reality will be a feature of this as well. And that is another thing that is really going to detach people from the old world. I think that like as a part of this emergence into this like new space age energy, like this expansion in cosmic awareness that goes on from this point and really moving forward, I think that we are going to kind of discover just like a new way of perceiving the influence of spirit in our physical 3D reality. And I think that they're going to like new, or not new, but maybe just previously unperceived or overlooked spiritual laws that are a very real part of our physical experience are going to just like be another thing that kind of comes online right now in a way that has a lot of people talking, and that like reorients our relationship to a higher power, and the way that we perceive both the visible and invisible realms of life and reality. And I actually think also that things such as astrology are going to gain attention and appeal and just like pull more people in over this time as well. So I do think we're heading for a bit of an astrology boom in terms of, I don't know, collective attention being focused on the stars. Overall though, you guys, on a macrocosm level, this new moon does look to me kind of like a PR battle that collapses the entire system. Powerful egos trying to maintain power and dominance and prominence at all costs, but in a way that is ultimately both revealing and self-destructive. On the personal level, this could represent also, you know, somewhat of an ego death as we awaken to authentic value and purpose and pursue this process of personally reinventing ourselves. I do think a lot of people are going to be experiencing what could be considered an ego death in some regard. We're also talking about, I mean, not only do we have the sun and the moon in the sign of Leo, Leo sign of sun associated with the ego, opposite Pluto, Lord of the underworld, death and rebirth, ego death there, but also Mars, the other planet associated with ego energy with the South Node, ego death there. We got ego death coming across two ways, but, and this is also about karmic release. Seems pretty clear, you guys. You know, people are likely to be going through it, but it is in a way that detaches us from some of these like lower ego instinct-based aspects of our nature and actually like liberates us to pursue and align with our higher selves and to be more self-masterful and consciously creative in the experience and detach ourselves from some of these cycles and patterns and karmic loops that had been such determining factors in the course of events of playing out in our lives so far. All that's changing, and I do think a lot of people are going to be getting on a different path now and moving forward that's going to take them places that they had never imagined possible previously. Intense showdowns though, you guys. We got a new moon opposite Pluto, like that's just going to come with it. Fiery and dramatic displays, powerful players pitted against one another, and steps toward the cultural transformation of humanity. That's what's coming through here to me. You know, as I said, I do think that this is a cultural turning point in the context of where power and influence is stemming from and the impact that it is having on decentralizing power throughout our society. So that's what I have to say, you guys. That's how I feel about this new moon chart. I think that this is another one of those significant energetic turning points that I speak about and reference, especially lately, so often in terms of the way astrology is coming together. It feels like yet again another light code is being activated that is really like propelling us out of the old world experience into this new paradigm that is representing the shift of ages, the age of Aquarius that we're moving into. So that's how I feel about it. It's going to be real interesting to see what goes on throughout this next couple of weeks. Now I'm going to get us a synchronicity card. I'm asking God, Spirit, Universe, what do we need to know? What should we keep in mind? What should we tell ourselves as this new moon energy comes in? What is the guidance that we need to be aware of? There's our card. And it says focus. Thou will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on thee. Isaiah 26:3. Focus your thoughts on God and that part of you that is God. Tune in on God and his serenity over your life. When you can still your mind and think of God and be at peace in your mind, everything around you will fall into a peaceful routine in your home life, your business, and in all aspects of your life. Stay in this state of mind and you will prosper beyond your wildest dreams. So we need to keep the faith, you guys, despite all the drama that may like legitimately be unfolding throughout the course of this Leo cycle. We have a North Node right now in the sign of Pisces. We have a Uranus-Pluto trine. Truly like unlimited possibilities, things that we never could have imagined to be possible, and all is possible through God, through our connection to our faith, a higher power, however you connect to the cosmic consciousness, the life-giving energy here on the planet. Our ability to keep that in a greater focus throughout the course of our new moon and Leo cycle will lead you to prospering beyond your wildest dreams. Also, remember, we do currently have the South Node at 21 degrees, or is it 20 degrees, I think, of the sign of Virgo. That Sabian symbol is a caravan of cars headed for promised lands. So we're going in the right direction, you guys. Even if things are a little bit messy right now, even if traffic has seemed a little bit jammed up, which it probably has, even if might feel like we're moving backwards more than we're moving forwards right now, it's all an optical illusion. We're actually going through a major like collective process of rebirth in terms of birthing a new energetic paradigm that is about to start forming itself around us. So focus, you guys. That is our cosmic memo for the day and maybe the week, and also this lunar cycle. That's what I have to say today, guys. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends if you think that they would also enjoy this type of astrology content. I would love to have them. If you want to know what's on this whiteboard, I take pictures of these boards, post them in a Facebook group that I have linked in my description box below. That's where you can find that, and come back with me on Friday, you guys. The week is not over. We have another energy report that we need to get into for our weekend. I will be back to talk all about it. You don't want to miss it, you guys. I will see you next time. Have a beautiful midpoint to your week. Have a beautiful new moon in Leo. And until next time, bye, guys.